Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. We're getting ready to finish the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, over this week, next week. We're closing out the book, preparing to anyway. So we're kind of looking at the theme of final thoughts, which is really the theme of the whole book. But as this book closes out, what is the emphasis that's being given? What are the things that are being pointed to more often? And what is being done to equip the people to get into the promise, which is what Moshe was wanting for the people. He was saying, as you go into the land, there's some things I want to make sure that you remember. There's some things that I want to make sure you do not forget. Because when you go in, life is going to change. Life is going to be different than what it is here. So when you go into the land, you're not going to have the tabernacle in the midst of you, like you can see it visibly in the midst of you. It doesn't mean that Yahweh's presence is not with you. What it means is you don't have that physical evidence that he is right there in your camp, even though he is, okay? But life changes that. I mean, day-to-day life, we get busy with things that we need to do. When they go into the land, they're going to have to farm. They're going to have to do things. They're not going to get manna every day. So life is going to change drastically, and they have to adapt to that. And so Yahweh is giving them instructions that when you go into the land, the most important thing, the number one above all, go back to the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, right? Follow him is what we're looking at. Listen to his voice. Learn to follow the advice that he's given us, which the advice that Yahweh has given us we often call Torah. Because Torah is teaching and instruction. So what is it that when he is speaking to us, he is teaching us and he is instructing us. So we learn to walk in his ways. We learn to walk with him, and that affects life. Okay. Now, when it comes time where they go into the land and people forget what Yahweh has told them, as people often do, right? Let's face it. We all forget things from time to time. And other things that become immediately right in front of us tend to be more important than other things we know we should do, but it's not pressing. So we kind of put it off, put it on the back burner, so to speak. Well, here Yahweh is saying, following me is not a back burner option. Following him is the thing that we do with all of our lives. And everything is an outgrowth of that. All right. So there's a song that is going to be written that Moshe and Yehoshua write, and they teach it to the children of Israel. And it says to teach the song to the people of Israel. And that way when the adults forget about it, the children will be singing it to remind them. See that's also the importance of teaching it to your children, so that your children remember and they grow in it. And then in the things that we may have forgotten, our children may remember. I mean, here's a good example. If you want to learn a new language, learn something pressing, or learn something different, teach it to a kid. And the children will be able to teach it to the adults. They pick up on it so much quicker, don't they? What's the point of the song, though? The song, there's something about a song. A song can reach into the depths of you and bypass your mind. It can bypass all this and hit right inside you, pierce you to your soul, right? There's a reason for that. Torah, it's often said that when Torah was given, it was a song. Because a melody, sometimes it's easier to remember a melody in a song than it is to remember just rote memorization. So if we put something in song, it tends to stick with us longer. I mean, a good example of that is, you get earworms. You get a song that's stuck in your head and you just can't get it out of your mind, right? It's just with you all day. You may hear a song passing down the road. Someone has a song on the radio, or you go into a store and you hear a song, or you're out somewhere and you hear a song, and it can take you back, transport you, if you will, back to a time when you remember hearing that song. So there's something about a song that can recall things in our life, and to bring up things that we may not have thought about. And the interesting thing about that is the lyrics aren't so much as important as the melody and getting it in you. You ever start singing a song just out of nowhere? You're singing the song and you didn't even realize you knew the words, and you're singing the song, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be singing that. Maybe those words aren't the best words that I should be saying right now. That's because of that melody. There's something about a song that can just get right in you. That's why we're instructed in things like Psalm 33, where it says, "Sing to him a new song, play skillfully on the strings with loud shouts, for the word of Yahweh is upright, and all his work is done in faithfulness." This is one of the reasons why worship expressed through song is important. Now, expression of song and worship is not the only way to worship. And I know depending on who you ask, you're going to get varying degrees of this. And what it comes down to ultimately is wherever this person's focus is where their worship is. Say that, well, no, this is worship. People say, no, study of the word is worship, and it's the highest form of worship. And no, you have to sing worship, or no, you have to dance in worship, or no, you have to physically express in worship. And here's the thing, all of them are modes of worship. And we just need to be careful about how we express that to others. Like, you're not worshiping unless you're doing this. No, that's different, okay? We be careful we don't get there. But we are instructed to sing to Yahweh. So there is something about that. And so we are instructed to sing him, and we do need to study his word to know what it says so that we can properly worship him. See, I mean, it all goes together, and I'm not diminishing any, and I'm not putting any over the other. What I am saying is they are all different modes or different aspects of worship. And so there is an importance to song. Okay, Psalm 96:1 says, "Sing to him, sing to Yahweh a new song, sing to Yahweh all the earth." And we know that creation itself is like a symphony. It's like a song that is singing to Yahweh. And so this is all things that we need to keep in mind. Okay. First off, the interesting thing is when we come into this portion in the scriptures, in the Torah scroll, it's written very interesting. It's divided out in two columns, where one column is divided out into two columns or two pillars. Put it this way, two witnesses, if you will. What does scripture say about two witnesses? It's that let everything be established with two or three witnesses. So we need at least two witnesses in order to establish something that's going to be set and firm and going to be like a precedent. So here we see that heavens and the earth is called to stand as witnesses. And this is why we see things in the scripture like until heaven and earth pass away, Matthew 5. Because the heaven and the earth are still here, and the heavens and the earth are still witnesses that the word of Yahweh is true. And what is the point of this song? Well, let's kind of go take a look at it. Deuteronomy 32:1, it says, "Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth." The interesting thing is give ears, Haazinu, to Haazinu the heavens, and Shema the earth. They each have a different function. Haazinu, it's like being spread out. Okay, Azan, it's the word, it's being spread out. It's kind of like how you would cup your ear. It's like being spread out, make it larger, spreading out. Shema is something that's here internalized. It's closer to you, right? And so what does Shema mean? It means obedience, right? So the heavens will hear and the earth will hear, but there's two different words that are being used there, two different functions. Ultimately, the heavens and the earth, no matter where we are, it's attesting to the fact that we need to listen to Yahweh. We need to pay attention to this because there's a purpose to this song. And I'm going to oversimplify it and say the purpose to this song was to call people to walk in obedience. That's an oversimplification of the song. It's saying Yahweh is good and don't forsake him. Don't turn from him. Okay. We see in Deuteronomy 31:19, which says, "Therefore write this song for yourselves and teach it to the people of Israel. Have them learn it by heart so that this song can be a witness for me against the people of Israel. For when I have brought them into the land that I swore to their ancestors, flowing with milk and honey, that they have eaten their fill, grown fat, and turned to other gods, serving them, disparaging me, broken my covenant." Wow, look at verse 21. "Then, after many calamities and troubles have come upon them, this song will testify before them as a witness, because their descendants will still be reciting it and will not have forgotten it. For I know how they think even now, even before I have brought them into the land about which I have sworn." That's the interesting thing. Yahweh says, "I know you," which he does, knows us better than we know ourselves at times. And it's not that he desires for us to go off and forsake him and go do our own thing, right? How many of you have hit that own stage in your life? Think of the rebellious teenager. No, I'm going to be my own person. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't want to do, I don't want to do anything your way. I want to do it my way, right? We've all been there. We've all experienced that in life. Some haven't outgrown that yet. Some may have not have learned the things they need to learn yet. But here we are, and this song is telling the people of Israel, you're not going to make it doing it your own way. Because the heavens and the earth, that means the land itself as well, is going to be a witness against you, that if you're going to forsake Yahweh and go do your own thing, you're not going to be in the land that long. because you cannot uphold the covenant that way. And we're called to live in covenant. And so ultimately, every day, we have choices to make. You know, we see choose this day who you will serve, right? Every day we have a choice to make. Now, we have a covenant with Yahweh, but are we going to uphold and walk and live in that covenant? That is a decision that we do every day, okay? So you have a choice who you will serve. And the Torah teaches us how to discern and make these choices. Either we walk in obedience to the word, right? We have the heart to do so, or we don't have the heart to do so. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But either way, this song was to stand as a witness. When you are walking in obedience to Yahweh and loving him, the song will stand as a witness for you. You know, you as my child, did you follow me with all your heart? Yes, I did. The song will be like, no, he didn't. Okay, so there's the witnesses that are here, even when nobody else sees. Heavens and the earth knows, Yahweh knows, right? So the song will testify to the fact of what you have done here. Okay, it is a witness against you that you chose to walk with him. Every day you chose to walk with Yahweh. 1 John 2, 1-6 says, my little children, these things I write to you, that you sin not. That's the desire. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yeshua Mashiach the righteous, and he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. Verse 4, he that says, I know him, and keeps not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keeps his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected, and hereby we know that we are in him. He that says he abides in him ought himself also to walk even as he walked. So what we see here is he's saying, so it's the desire that you don't sin, but when you do, you have an advocate. Why? Is it just, so in that case, I can just go around and do whatever I want anyway? No, that's not it. Because that's not just a sin or stumbling into something or whatever. That's willful defiance. That's rebellion, okay? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you messed up. Right? So when we do that, we do have an advocate with the Father, but his desire is that we follow him, obey his voice, we walk with him. And then when life gets hard, when everything gets difficult, he is the one that we can rely on. He is the one that we can stand on and stand with. And when we see we can't do things in our own strength, he is our rock that we can be assured of. He is a solid foundation for us. And interestingly, that's kind of how this song is introduced. So Deuteronomy 32, 1-4. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. May my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, like gentle rain upon the tender grass, like showers upon the herb. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh, ascribe greatness to our God, the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are justice, a God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is he. So verse 4 is what I want to look at here. Okay, verse 4 is where I want to, even though in the opening verses right here, there's so much to be talked about, but I want to kind of look at verse 4 and focus on that for a minute. Where it says, he is the rock, his work is perfect. In the Hebrew, it's Hatzur, Tamim is the word. Hatzur is the word for rock. Tamim is perfect, right? Pa'alo is the work. And so here we have the rock, or you could even say the perfect rock. His work is perfect. Again, it's just the idea of saying that he is solid. He is the one we can stand on. We can trust him. That's the word for faith, right? Trust. So we can trust him. And no matter what life brings, he is a constant for us. Okay? So the very first use of the word for rock is also an interesting phrase. It's in relationship to Moshe, which here Moshe is declaring he is the rock. His work is perfect. And we see the very first time this word zur is used is also in relationship of a sign of covenant. Interesting. Let's go back and take a look at it. In Exodus 4:25, this is after the burning bush, okay? Yahweh had called Moshe, says, I want you to go back. I want you to be a deliverer for my people. Yes, we know Yahweh is going to deliver them, but yet he wants Moshe to go in and to speak to the people of Israel and to give them his words and lead them out, right? So what happens very soon after that? Exodus 4, verse 25. Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." And this is used in connection with the sign of the covenant, right? So the rock and the circumcision that's done there. And there's some midrash out there. And of course, at first glance, you could say, well, that's kind of drastic, right? What's the deal with that? Well, understand again, Moshe, a descendant of Abraham, remember Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, right? Yaakov became Israel and the 12 tribes associated with him. And circumcision, understand, is not covenant. Circumcision is a sign of the covenant. And so here, it is just one of my thoughts. You don't have to believe me. You can think your own thing. That's okay, because we're not expressly told in the scripture, okay? So I'm not going to be dogmatic about that. But it is saying, so Moshe, when you go back into the land or back into Mitzrayim, and you're going to lead the people out, you're going to be a deliverer for them, I don't want any double standards for you. Think about that. And so Moshe was circumcised, right? He would have been. And his sons, his descendants, should be as well. Okay, because that was the sign of the covenant that Yahweh had given them, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And so this was the sign that was there, right? And Moshe was not from Egypt. He was a descendant of Levi of Israel. Okay, so let's keep going. So here's a thought. The one sent to deliver Israel would uphold the word, not introduce the double standard from any direction that it would be. So you uphold the word, but I don't have to. It could be one. Or we look at this. I'll uphold the word and you remain in iniquity. I'll uphold the word, but you don't have to. No, don't. You don't have to do that at all. And that would essentially be telling people not to follow Yahweh. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to his word. And don't do what he says. When Yahweh says, this is what Adonai has spoken, through those who are near me I will be consecrated, and before all the people I will be glorified. Again, this was after the death of Aaron's 2 sons. And he is saying, those who are near me will be held to a higher standard, is what he's saying. Those who are closest to me are going to have to be held to a higher standard, because the people are going to look at them as a representative of Yahweh in their midst. Now, that's not necessarily the best way to do it, is it? No, we need to look to Yah himself. But let's face it, we do look to people as examples. And so because of that, we are supposed to be an example that others can follow. Another interesting thought is in the Targum Onkelos. Now, Onkelos is the official Aramaic translation to the Torah. Its authorship is attributed to Onkelos, who was a convert to Judaism around somewhere between 35 and 120 CE, all right, in the Common Era. So when we look at verse 25, where it says, she took the flint and cut her son's foreskin, she placed it before him and says, again, the Aramaic translation says, with this blood of the circumcision, the bridegroom is given to us. In verse 26, so he let him alone, and she says, were it not for the blood of the circumcision, the bridegroom would be obligated to be killed. This is very Messianic overtones to it. This is a very interesting way to put this. Being in covenant, we cannot receive the bridegroom unless we're in covenant, right? So the bridegroom came, yes, for those who were in covenant, but he came to call those who were not in covenant to be in covenant so that he could come to them, right? Again, it's just a lot of food for thought and something you can kick around when you're just considering things. Matthew 15:24 says, I am not sent to the lost sheep, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Zephaniah 3:20 says, at that time I will bring you again, even in that time I will gather you, for I will make you a name and a praise among all the people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before their eyes, says Yahweh. So we know, he says, so he is the rock. And the point I want to make here is it says he is the rock. It's not just a rock. Okay, there's a specific rock we're talking about. He is the rock. Look at this, Exodus 17:5 and 6. So Yahweh says to Moshe, pass on before the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff which you struck the Nile, and go. Behold, I will stand before you there on Al-Hatzor, on the rock at Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out of it, and the people will drink. And Moshe did in the sight of the elders of Israel. Again, who is the rock that gave them water in the wilderness? We know that this is Messiah, right? He is the rock. He is our Redeemer. He is our King. He is the rock. He is the one that we are sure of. He is the one that we have faith in, and he is the one that can give us water for life. Okay, and all this is good things in the song. Psalm 62, 5 through 8 says, "My soul wait in silence for God alone, because my hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. My stronghold, I won't be moved. My safety and honor rest on God. My strong rock and refuge are in God. Trust in him, people, at all times. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Selah." So he is the rock. And so we know, rock, solid, good foundation, got it, right? But what else do we know about this rock? Look, go to Deuteronomy 32:4. So he is a rock, his work is perfect, all his ways are judgment, mishpat. So again, if all his ways are mishpat, all his ways are judgment, we think judgment is a bad thing. No, judgment is only bad if you're on the wrong side of it. Okay, because in a judgment, one is declared just and one is declared unjust. Now that has different varying forms. You don't want to necessarily say righteous and unrighteous. It could just be a bad decision, not someone's unrighteous, right? But the point of it being, you want a favorable judgment. So judgment is only good if you're on the wrong side of it. So all his ways are mishpat. All his ways are judgment. In other words, living life daily in the earth, you have to discern his ways and judge between which direction you are going to go. Very simple. In the scriptures, right after the 10 commandments or the 10 words, there's a portion that's called mishpatim, and those are judgments. And they're all about life relationships. They're all about how we handle disagreements with one another. Now, this doesn't cover any single thing that could ever possibly come up, but yet it does give us good principles to follow and good examples for us to lead into when we understand how we're supposed to treat one another and how we're supposed to honor one another. Okay, Genesis 18, 17 and 19. Speaking of Avraham, so Yahweh says, "Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and that they shall keep the ways of Yahweh." What are the ways of Yahweh? To do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham the thing which he had spoken of him. So he says the ways of Yahweh are justice and judgment. And here Moshe in Deuteronomy 32 is saying all his ways are judgment. See that? So there is a connection in there. So what are we supposed to do? Judgment. Now, this does not mean that we go around condemning everybody that we see. This is not your place or your job to go around judging and being hypercritical of everyone and condemning everyone you come across. And no, I'm trying to help them. I'm all God's ways are judgment. And so I'm demonstrating God in the earth by judging everybody. No, that's not it. Understand again, mishpat is learning to discern the things that are before us, to pick the right path, and ultimately to help those around us to do the same. Right? It's not about being right. It's about doing right. Okay, Psalm 89:14. "Justice and judgment are the habitation of your throne. Mercy and truth grow before your face." Proverbs 21:2 and 3. "Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but Yahweh ponders the hearts." To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to Yahweh than sacrifice. So again, these things that we're looking at is to do justice and judgment. And that's going to help benefit us and benefit those around us, our communities, and ultimately all in the earth, right? Because it's all of his ways that we seek. Deuteronomy 4, 9 through 10 says, "Take care to keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen, unless they depart from your heart all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your children's children," much like what we're instructed about the song, right? "How on the day that you stood before Yahweh your God at Horeb, and Yahweh says to me, gather the people to me, that I may let them hear my words, so that they may learn to fear me all the days that they live on the earth, and that they may teach their children to do so." That's our responsibility, to learn ourselves, to do it, and to teach it to the next generation, to the generations that follow. So back to Deuteronomy 31, 10 through 13. So Moshe commands them at the end of every 7 years, at the set time in the year of release, at the Feast of Booths, at the Feast of Sukkot, when all Israel comes before Yahweh your God at the place where he will choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, the men, the women, the little ones, and the sojourner that is in your towns, that they may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your God, and be careful to do all the words of this law, and that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your God as long as you live in the land you're going over the Jordan to possess. So again, this is all about you learning it and teaching it to the next generation. Even makes the point of saying, so every 7 years they were to go at the Feast of Sukkot and they were to hear the entirety of the Torah read. And notice the children were not exempt. Okay. Yes, this is kind of a little pet peeve for me. Okay. They didn't have to separate the children so that they could, so the children, no. See, it's your responsibility to teach your kids at home. And when you come together in the public assemblies, it's to reinforce what you're supposed to be taught at home. And you learn what's being taught in the public gatherings and the assemblies and the public reading of the Torah that was done here every 7 years. And that everybody heard it. You heard it. Your spouse heard it. Your children heard it. And so that when you go home and you try to teach it, there's accountability. So there's things going on there. We all heard the word, and this is what it says. You can't teach contradictory to it because we all heard it. So we need to make sure that we are teaching the next generation what Yahweh says. Okay. And I'm not opposed to, speaking to children in language they understand. Okay. But that does not exempt you and your children seeing you gathered with other people of Israel to worship and to hear the word of Yahweh taught. Okay, now, before I start getting feedback on that, I understand not everybody has that. My prayer is that someday, very soon, that becomes available to you. We don't have that everywhere. It's not in every city. It's not in every place. It's not where it's supposed to be. So for now, it's very difficult for some people to do that. I get that. I'm not condemning that. I'm not condemning the people where that is their situation. But what I am saying is that your desire? Is that our heart? Is it that we do want to gather with the people of Yahweh? And my prayer is that he will make a way for that. Okay, back to the Parsha. So the portion of Haazinu addresses all his ways are mishpah. So there's a connection between listening and walking upright. In other words, there's a connection between listening and discernment, or listening and learning. So the word Haazinu, give ear, azan, means, like I said earlier, to kind of like spread out, to fan out, to make larger, right? Also, it's the same word for scales. Scale. A balance, weight, scales. And so it's interesting that the area of your brain that helps to discern what you have heard, it's like you hear and then you try to discern what you've heard and you think about it. It's up here, right? And so it's kind of like scales, like your ears, and then here's the pivot point, right? So it's scales to weigh out and discern what you have heard. That's why I believe it's Scripture talks about having a just weights and scales, and I do believe that is a very physical thing, and literally as well, right? That when you're buying or selling, it's not you're to have one set of weights for buying, one set for selling, so that it favors you, right? No, that's corrupt. But the point of that being, you're not having different standards for different people. It's the same scales. It's the same weights, it's the same measures. And Yahweh is our measure. We don't measure ourselves against each other. We don't measure ourselves to ourselves. We measure ourselves against Yahweh and his word. And that is the standard that we come into. Okay, it's more about scales. Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. Proverbs 16:11, a just weight and balance are Yahweh's. All the weights of the bag are his work. All the stones, he made all the stones, right? So all the weights of the bag are his work. Proverbs 20, verse 23, diverse weights are an abomination unto Yahweh, and a false balance is not good. So we need to have a standard of judgment that is Yahweh, and we need to walk justly and live that way with our fellow human being, right? Okay, Deuteronomy 32:28. It says, they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they would understand this. Understand what? That they would consider their latter end, or consider the end of the matter, or consider the latter days, or consider the end of their life, or considering, all of these things can fit, okay? But this word here for considering is bain, which means to discern. So Yahweh is saying, oh, that they would do this, that they would learn to discern. Well, how do we do that? We start by reading the word, by listening to what he says about situations. When we read a situation and see how he reacts to it and see what he says about it, then we learn his ways. So we learn to discern day-by-day life by getting into the word, by listening to him, and ultimately, yes, the Ruach HaKodesh will lead you and will guide you. The problem is we have to learn to discern that too, because the Ruach is not, oh, well, I think this. No. We have to learn to discern that voice as well. Deuteronomy 4:26-30 says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you. Notice again that the song was written in Deuteronomy 32. It's speaking to the heavens and the earth, right? Okay, well, back to Deuteronomy 4. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that you shall soon utterly perish off the land where you go to Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but you shall utterly be destroyed. And Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whether Yahweh shall lead you. And there you shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But from there, verse 29, from there you will seek Yahweh your God, and you will find him if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. So when you are in tribulation, and all these things come upon you, when? In the latter days, in the last days, in the latter days. So if you turn to Yahweh your God and be obedient to his voice, then it goes on to talk about different blessings and things that are there. And so in the latter days, when there's tribulation, seek Yahweh. Right? Because what happens is we lose focus, right? We turn focus off of him, and we need to keep our focus on him. See, that's what this song is doing. It's calling us back to pay attention to the right things. And the right things are not, look, the world is exploding all over the place. The right things is, okay, but Yahweh says, keep your focus. Keep your eyes and your heart and your mind set on him, and listen to him and do what he says, okay? Hosea, chapter 3, verse 4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, without a prince, without a sacrifice, without an image, without an ephod, and without teraphim. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek Yahweh their God, and David their king shall fear Yahweh and his goodness in the latter days. See that? So returning and seeking him in the last days, in the latter days. Ecclesiastes 12:13-14. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Remember, Yeshua says, right, and it's in the book of John, it's in more than once, it's loaded in chapters 14 and 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Just as I have kept my Father's commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, he who loves me and keeps my commandments. It is he that, on and on. Okay? The point is, if we do love Yahweh, then we listen to him. It's not that we do what he says to try to earn salvation or earn grace or earn anything from him. No, we enter into covenant with him, then we are obedient to his voice because we're in covenant with him. We learn his ways because his ways are better. Okay? So even Ecclesiastes 12 it says, so the end of everything, so after all is said and done, what's the most important thing? Hear God, listen to his voice, keep his commandments, right? John 14:23-24. Yeshua says, if a man loves me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our abode with him. He that loves me not keeps not my sayings. And here's this, and the word which you hear not is not mine, but the Father's which sent me. So he's saying, the things that I'm telling you, it's nothing new. I'm not telling you something different than what you've already been told by Yahweh. So if you love me, keep my commandments, which is what you've already been instructed, but I'm telling you again, right? I'm commanding you here, right? Revelation 22:12-14. He says, behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. I am Alpha Omega, or I believe more accurately, Aleph Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that what? Do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates of the city. See that? Well, who are they that do his commandments? Is this just those who do his commandments? No, it's those who are in covenant with him. Therefore, they keep his commandments. Notice the keeping, it means doing, not just talking about them or not just relating them to somebody else, but acknowledging they exist. No, it's doing what he said. And that's, again, what the song is supposed to be given to us to do. I encourage you, as you read through Deuteronomy 32, try to make it a melody for it. Something in your heart. Try to make a melody for it. Try to sing through it. You and your kids. Make it fun. Make a song out of it and learn it, because that's the point. The point is that you learn it so that years from now, your children, when they're grown, can still recall and remember the song. How many of you remember if you had someone in your life when you were young, whether it be a mother, a father, or a grandparent, or uncle, aunt, cousin, whatever, if you had someone who used to sing to you when you were a child, how many of you can still recall that song? See, make the word a living song in your life so that it can live in you, and he'll have that joy that is supposed to have in it. All right. Okay, so I hope this has been a challenge to you, but I hope it's been a blessing to you as well, and I hope it encourages you. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and if these have been an encouragement to you and a blessing, may I encourage you, go to our website, ruachonline.com, make a donation to help us keep these videos moving and help keep these things moving along, because it's important that we get the word out there, right? Well, in order to do that, we need help. All right, so if this has been a blessing to you, please consider doing so. And until next time, be blessed and shalom.